Carolina Panthers officially placed Robert Hunt and Austin Corbett on IR. That opened up two spots. We're here to break down the two newest additions for the Carolina Panthers and talk about other news. Let's go.
Brace yourself for the ultimate Carolina Panthers experience. Welcome to Two Growls, One Roar, the podcast that hits harder than a Luke Kuechly tackle. We're diving deep into the heart of Panther Nation, bringing you unrivaled passion, insider takes, and pure gridiron fire. From Wilmington to the cosmos, this is your home for the fiercest football talk east or west of Charlotte.
Welcome in, folks, to another edition of the Two Growls, One Roar podcast. I hope you guys are doing well. We're here. We're chugging along. We have a nice video coming out about the Carolina Panthers as they sit at 0-2 and the status of Dave Canales and where I think he sits. There's a lot of hot takes and overreactions right now. Kind of just have to let this thing settle out. Again, I'm not here to tell you this team is here to make the playoffs, that they know what they're going to do, that they're going to figure this out. No, I'm not. Just based off of what we've seen with some of the deficiencies, we got a long ways to go, but we can at least start to relax a little bit. And you know what? A win over the Atlanta Falcons would do a lot for this fan base and this team right now. But let's get you caught up, folks. So no pressers today. So no real news that's going to come through from the team outside of the fact that we have official confirmation on the two newest additions. So again, Austin Corbett placed on IR, as well as Robert Hunt, a designation to return. So there is a possibility, very slim. No idea what those windows look like, but we'll continue to monitor that. I tweeted this out last night when we were breaking down where I thought the Panthers may look. So two spots open up. They could bring in folks from the practice squad, but to me, I was like, man, I just don't see that happening. Not that I don't think there's guys on our squad that we would want to bring in, but in instances like this, you open up two spots. You can look to a free agent, somebody who's just sitting around, probably not the best place to be. You want to look at somebody who's in the NFL right now. So you go to practice squads. So this is the reason, if you don't know, when you sign someone off of someone else's practice squad, you have to sign them to the active roster. That's why you don't see a lot of poaching, because if you sign someone, you got to move them up. So it's not like you can sign them and then put them on your practice squad. So that's why the Panthers did what they did. So they go out today and officially sign in two players, a linebacker and a center. We'll get you a breakdown of both of these guys right now. That's what we got to do. So here we go. I pronounced this last night. I'm going to have to get the official pronunciation, so please forgive me as we go through this. But Maema Njongmeta, who is a linebacker, so he signed with the Carolina Panthers officially. He went undrafted back in 2024, played his college ball at the University of Wisconsin. He was formerly with the Cincinnati Bengals, had a very productive season as a junior, where he entered a starting role and was named third team All Big Ten. He led the Badgers with 95 tackles, and then in his senior year, he continued to be a key player, had 59 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss. Over his two seasons, recorded 154 tackles, 21 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks. So some production. In his pro career, he joined the Bengals as an undrafted free agent last year. He made the 53-man roster, played in all 17 games. He was primarily a contributor on special teams. He had 6 defensive tackles and 7 special teams tackles, including a fumble recovery on a block punt that led to a game-winning drive. And then he was later waived this year and signed to the practice squad. So you've got a special teams player at the very least, which is not a bad thing to have. Now, roster construction-wise for the Carolina Panthers, they lost 2 offensive linemen. So I was a little bit surprised that they didn't go bring in 2 more offensive linemen. As of now, they have 8 on the roster. There's a chance they could bring someone up. And even Dave Canales did talk about, and I got to go out here just to get you guys confirmation, but Dave Canales did talk about Kingston, who's on the practice squad. And I just scrolled over it, so I got to go back as I look at my notes. But he did talk about Kingston and then Walton. I want to make sure I get get his name right for you guys. Jarrett Kingston, and we do have Michael Tarkin as well, but Brandon Walton. So you do have a few options, but Tarkin and Walton are your tackles, and Jarrett Kingston is your guard. But Dave Canales putting full faith in Chandler Zavala and Cade Mays. I don't have any concerns about Cade Mays. Chandler Zavala, we'll see, because he's also had a bumpy career with injuries. But yeah, a little bit surprised that the Panthers chose to keep 8. Again, this may change, so continue to monitor because things could continue to fluctuate as we get into this. The other addition was a center. I mean, it makes sense. You're basically down, and I know Brady Christensen could move over, but you don't want to be in a position where you don't have a backup center. Like, that's a terrible spot to be in. The Panthers signed from the Ravens practice squad Nick Samac. So he was drafted by the Baltimore Ravens in the 7th round last year, played his college ball at Michigan State. During his college career, he was a 5-year letterman for the Spartans, played in 49 career games with 32 starts at center. He was a 2-time honorable mention All Big Ten selection in 22 and 23, named to the Remington Trophy watch list, an award given to the nation's top center. His final season was cut short by a season-ending injury in November of 2023. So, despite the injury, he was invited to the East-West Shrine Bowl in the NFL Scouting Combine. He was later drafted, like you said, by the Ravens. He was released before the start of his season, but signed back to the practice squad. Similar case. My guess is that the Carolina Panthers likely scouted both of these guys. So I'm sure they went through their Rolodex of guys over the past year or two, said, hey, was there any guy or guys in particular that stood out? You need a center. That's a must. So I think this is a good fit to have. And future-proof wise, if he's able to be in a good state from where he was with his injury, great option long-term potentially if this thing pans out. But I did see someone joke that I hate for him to go from the Baltimore Ravens to the Carolina Panthers, just thinking about how that is. Feel your pain, man. I do feel your pain a little bit. It's quite a jump there. But going back to the first signing with Maema, this too, although they didn't bring in another offensive lineman, makes me feel a little bit better about them understanding that things are not working out at the linebacker position. Why the Carolina Panthers did not choose to do this earlier still baffles me. We've kind of hit on it multiple times, but I like to keep bringing it up. They were there with Josey Jewell. So they knew about his protocol. They knew about his status, his recovery, his plan, all those things. For the Carolina Panthers to watch that, and Dan Morgan in particular, and know that, maybe his status was iffy coming into this season, speaking of Josey Jewell, and to not make a decision to get some additional support outside of Rose Boone, who's going to be a rotational player, is concerning. Every good team, and Dan Morgan knows this, you got to have a good linebacker. At least one side of the linebacker in the middle. If you have two, I mean, we've seen what you can do with 2 to 3 linebackers that know what they're doing. You also had the opportunity to bring back Shaq Thompson. Now, I will gladly admit that I have not looked at Shaq Thompson's stats. But that's what we're going to do right now live. You guys can't see me as I go through this. Doesn't look like there's a lot of production. So, to be honest, maybe we're not really missing anything. Let's go back and pull up. He is listed, his status currently is questionable, so probably battling something. But to date, he only has 1 tackle. So maybe we're not missing anything. I get it. You moved on. That's fine. And he was up in age, and he did have injury history as well. But for the Carolina Panthers, again, to know what was there with Josey Jewell and then not to make a decision, it's frustrating. Because, we like to talk about Dave Canales and him being on the hot seat in this team and the lack of preparation and things like that. For us to sit here and just watch that, like, why? What is going on? Like, I don't understand how you can look at the football team that's in front of you and say, well, you know what? We're actually okay with what we have. I mean, I don't know. I really don't. So that's the state of the Carolina Panthers roster as it is today. We will get continuous updates throughout the week. It's probably no Turk, I'm guessing, for this week's game. We heard it was 2-4, so I would assume he's not going to be out there. But big opportunity for the Carolina Panthers to figure it out. I don't know that they're going to figure it out. I'm not going to base anything off of what we saw in the final game that ended the season, but a positive is the fact that Cade Mays and Chandler Zavala played in that game. So we have to hope just a little bit that things are going to pan out. Can we finally get in the win column? It would be nice. I do not want to drop to 0-3, regardless of whether or not we are on a path to make the playoffs. Now, another topic that we'll talk about today is Xavier Legette. It's probably one of the other most popular topics outside of bad center play, outside of turnovers and Bryce Young and Dave Canales. And I mean, whatever the story is, there's a lot to go around. But talking about XL, Dave Canales again confirming, we talked about this yesterday, but Dave Canales confirming that there's not going to be a change in reps and snaps and targets, still the same. And some folks are a little bit frustrated with him benching Bryce Young after 2 games and seeing a similar path and thinking that XL played a little bit better this past game and not benching him. And I get it. I really do. But then I sat back and I said, well, thinking about where the roster is right now, and to be honest, you don't have to convince me, but there are some other guys that could probably step up and to get a few more reps. So Bryson Tremaine, number one, comes to mind. I think he's shown us enough. Hasn't been perfect, but he's shown us enough, and he's got the ability. He did it in the preseason. Why not feed him a little bit more? And Jimmy Horn Jr. Now, the evaluation of Jimmy Horn, I think people kind of go a little too far with Jimmy Horn. He was a 6th-round pick. Like, let's keep remembering that he was a 6th-round pick. Yes, you can still be great and develop and all those things, but he was 6th round. A lot of other teams passed on him. Carolina Panthers picked him. We haven't gotten to see him. Right now would be a good opportunity. Like, if you think about naturally where this thing's going to play out, it would be a nice time to be able to bring him in and start to see what you can do, especially in the return game as a possibility. But outside of Bryson Tremaine, who's listed as his first backup to XL, and then Jimmy Horn Jr., you're really talking David Moore and DeLavon Campbell. But those guys are technically T-Mac's backup. I know they could probably shift around, especially Jimmy Horn Jr. potentially in the slot. My thought, and this is just me thinking out loud for you guys, maybe the reason that we're not taking reps away from XL is he wants to give him probably another 2 to 3 weeks. Give him a chance. Let's see what can happen and then evaluate based off of that, because at that point, you're talking about Jalen Coker being back. And I think the pressure turns up a notch when Jalen Coker is back, because then if Hunter Renfrow keeps playing like he is, which has been a very positive situation, especially if we compare his stats to Adam Thielen's. It's not apples to apples, but still, Hunter Renfrow having a better season, the very early season. But Hunter Renfrow, T-Mac, and Jalen Coker, potentially that's your 3 starters. You have the ability to shift XL down and out. So I don't think it happens until then. And I think in between, it's like, okay, we want to just try. They did try last week ways to figure out how to get him the ball, but didn't necessarily pan out that way. That's just my opinion on how I think this is going to play out. So anyways, we'll continue to monitor that as well. And as far as everything that we have to talk about, that's pretty much all that we have in scope for today. So as always, guys, appreciate you tuning in. This is Carolina Dad. Y'all have a good one.